and welcome to Check It Out with EVPL,
a podcast from your local library. I'm your host, Aaron.
And I'm your host, Ellen, and today we are joined by two guests. Would you like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, my name is Eric. I'm an experienced facilitator at EVPL Central, and I have worked for EVPL for 7 years.
And my name is Ryan. You've heard my voice before, and I bullied myself onto today's episode.
He did. He's actually quite a terrifying man. He was just here when we showed up.
Yeah, you can't say no if I'm already sitting at the mic.
Yeah.
I'll just say that with today's topic, I think he's going to be a very useful person, because today we are discussing video games.
Yay!
That sounds sarcastic, but actually we are super excited.
We're just really bad at expressing joy.
So, how cool are video games, guys?
I mean,
so cool. Too cool for school.
Dang, that's I haven't heard that in a long time, Alan. Let's appreciate it. They're great. I've played them for years and years, many decades actually. So I think we're part of that generation to where we grew up on it, like the first one to actually be able to grow up on it.
Yeah, because we were kind of like with computers, like we've always had commercialized video game systems available to us in like the public. And we've seen a jump from like characters consisting of like 4 lines in a circle to like high, photorealistic graphics nowadays. So what about you, Eric? What's your history with video games?
So, the earliest video games I can remember are actually not as much about the video games themselves, but more the experience of going into a video store. Those things that used to exist where you used to get these mythical VHS tapes, whatever those are. And you would actually be able to rent out a video game system for a weekend. And you can get a bunch of games and play it for that weekend. I can remember doing this for both the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis. I would say that the first video game system that really became normalized in our household was the original PlayStation. It's a bit of a cliche and a meme online, but there's a saying that your first CD player is a PlayStation 1, your first DVD player is a PlayStation 2, and your first Blu-ray player is a PlayStation 3. And definitely with the latter two, that is absolutely the case. So we were, from that point on, a Sony family pretty exclusively. But when I was very little, I remember just getting video game systems for a weekend, playing one game to completion on a Saturday, and then maybe a couple months later getting a different video game system.
Oh yeah, that time limit you had the 2 days to beat it, and if you didn't, it was trouble.
By the way, you delivered that like you were being interviewed for the History Channel, and that broke my heart. I'm like, oh gosh, that was a long time ago. There are people listening to this who might not have even been born yet, and who have no idea about the concept of the magical rental stores.
Yep.
By the way, so if that's true with the PlayStations, how PS1 is your first music player, would the Nintendo be your first balloon?
It's an interesting thing to think about, and especially with Nintendo, I feel like there is such a family-friendly reputation to it. So it's very much something that kids, I feel like, know Mario perhaps more than Mickey Mouse or Bugs Bunny or some of the icons that we grew up with. That this has become such ingrained in pop culture now that kids are playing Mario and Yoshi and Donkey Kong before they might be able to speak.
And a lot of kids, their first camera was the Game Boy camera.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Did any of you guys have the Game Boy camera or like the printers and all the weird add-ons that they did for those?
I had a friend who did. He had the entire tricked out Game Boy that weighed like 10 pounds after all it was said and done. And I mean, it was cool. I had no interest in it.
We definitely had a similar thing where our first DVD player was the PlayStation 2, and that was like the first game system that we had in our household. And I was still pretty young when we got that. So my initial video game experience was just a lot of watching my brother play Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2.
Yep. I remember that. You could unlock Spider-Man as a playable character in that.
Oh man, those games had amazing soundtracks too. My first console was the original Nintendo Entertainment System. And we were like, I was 2 when we got it. And I had no idea why I was playing for like a good 3 years. I just knew that like certain buttons did something, and I would never get past the first level. But my big brother would kind of help me get through it until I could kind of like be a little more on mark with those games?
Yeah, my history is kind of similar. My earliest one was the Atari. Yeah, so I'm a little bit further back than you, but I did skip the NES. Went straight to the Super Nintendo. But some of the earliest memories I have were actually playing, because you could hook up 4 joysticks with the Atari home console. And I have 3 siblings. So it was all 4 of us just playing old Atari games. And that's like one of the fondest family memories I have. And my dad actually would get into it with us as well. So it was just a big bonding experience at that point in my life, which was really, really cool.
What was your go-to party game?
Go-to party game as a kid, I think it was called Warlords or something. It was like 4-person Pong. Oh. It was a battle royale because, you know, you're playing with a joystick, but you're also punching your brother or sister because you don't need 2 hands for your controller.
So you're saying this is like the precursor to Fortnite?
Yeah, I was gonna say this is
squabbling, yeah, essentially.
When they designed the online play, they're like, "What if you can just instead of punching someone, verbally punch them with your words?" So you're probably thinking hey, I thought this was a library podcast. We're getting to the connection. Just don't worry. So I know that on Wednesdays in the late afternoon, we do have video game nights here over in the Teen Center. Eric, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. We have teen gaming that goes every Wednesday. We have it in our teen zone. There's a circular room that was once upon a time a cafe here at Central, but is now used for library events such as this. There are 3 TVs used, 1 with a Switch, 1 with a Wii, and 1 with a GameCube. All have different iterations of both Mario Kart and Super Smash Bros. Available. Right now, we're doing exclusively Nintendo titles and those franchises because they are, most importantly, fun, but they're also family-friendly, easy to learn how to play, easy to include multiple players. That being said, we do have a PlayStation 2, and we may expand what titles and systems we use in the future. Every Wednesday from 3 to 5, the cafe area has these games along with popcorn and occasionally other snacks. Most of our students are from Signature School. The kids come over and most play their games, although some will sit and do their homework or use our colored pencils and markers to draw. At its busiest, there can be up to 30 to 35 teens in there, although for most of the 2 hours, it's a little bit closer to 10. And though most of these students are from SIG School, not all are, and it is a joy when word of mouth spreads and teens from other schools in the area start showing up because they want to participate.
Yeah, and I work most Wednesday nights, and that it is just a raucous good time every time I walk by there. All the kids are really involved, and if they're not playing, they're very vocal observers.
Absolutely.
Gotta love that backseat gaming.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if someone wanted to suggest any new titles or anything or changes to it, how would they do so?
Well, they could always come to us. They could put in a request through the Ask EVPL service on our website. So far, I would really say that I haven't gotten as many requests for new titles so much as different accessories. For example, we have a lot of old GameCube controllers, and there's actually an accessory that one student had, and he showed it to me, and we are going to order one ourselves that allows up to 4 GameCube controllers to be plugged into the Switch, so it just allows up to 6 players instead of the usual 2 that the Switch has. So just, different accessories like that have been recommended in the past and add to our collection.
Cool. And who all is allowed to come?
For the most part is teenagers. We're a little leeway if somebody's 12 or 13 or what's middle school, high school. But for the really young kids, the Reed Center will sometimes have a similar program. But the one that I do on Wednesday afternoons is for teenagers, approximately 13 to 18.
Okay. And if anyone wanted to find out more information about this, they could visit our website because we've got information on the events page about it, don't we?
Absolutely.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thanks, Eric. And another very important question here. I have spotted those metallic DDR pads in the back. When are we going to whip those bad boys out?
We are considering it. It It was 2019 we had some of the DDR stuff for the Xbox 360 out at one point. And so we had a 360 and we had some dance games for that. So the only issue is that we currently do it in the cafe and it's kind of a small space, especially when everybody's crammed in around all the TVs. But in the future, if we maybe have a place set aside for it in the teen zone, I can definitely see something like that going on.
And I apologize. DDR stands for Dance Dance Revolution, which is a rhythm game where you have 4 directional arrows you step on to correlate with the beats. And it's, trust me, when you start doing it, you're like, oh, this looked a lot easier than I thought.
It really tells you how old you are, because back in the day, I was like, oh, this is super fun. And then I got on it like 2 or 3 years ago, and I barely made it to my first song. And I was like, I'm done. It's too much emotion going on all over the place.
So can we just do up and down? Like I can't do left and right and up and down.
Yeah, limit me to just one arrow. I'm good.
I like that the kind of newer interpretations of DDR, instead of using a dance pad, you have the motion sensitive controllers. And so like you have to really get into it or else you don't get as high of a score.
Yeah, that's is it Just Dance? Is that the series that does that?
That's one of them, yeah. I think there's a few different ones.
You telling me I have to dance with both my feet and my arms?
Yes.
I can't just shuffle back and forth like I do, like my old middle school dances. That's what I want. I want a middle school dance simulator.
Ooh.
Where you're really far apart and
you
awkward.
lock the arms.
Yeah, you don't want to make too much eye contact.
It'd just be like a Persona type RPG game where you have to like go talk to all the different like gatherings of kids. You've got the kids on the bleachers who never dance, the ones who think they're really good dancers, but are obviously not.
Yeah, and then it throws you into the minigame. There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
There's the link.
So you mentioned Persona, and that's actually one that I'm really excited about right now. Persona 5 is the latest one, and that is exclusive to the PlayStation. But there's a lot going on because that series is having their 25th anniversary event for basically this entire year. And so they may release that on cross-platform as well as a lot of other kind of updates and fun little remakes they're doing. Have you heard anything about that?
The only thing I know for sure right now is that they're releasing the Persona 4 Ultra Max fighting game for the Switch. I'm very eager to hear what else they have cooking up right now, because I feel like they're going to be bringing a lot of those games over to more systems.
Yeah, there's a rumor that they're also doing Persona 3 on the Switch, but I don't think they've confirmed that yet. But that's the only one in the series where you can play as either a girl or a guy.
It's also one of the few games I've cried to.
Persona
3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did a previous podcast with one of my friends, and we were talking about favorite video games of all time, and that made, I think, number 9, just because of the emotional response I had to it.
I don't have enough fingers to count how many times I've cried. Like, just off the top of my head, I'm like, Metal Gear Solid, Persona 5, Guardians of the Galaxy,
Silent Hill 2.
Silent Hill 2. Cry for different reasons, though.
Have you had any other, like, visceral reactions apart?
I play a lot of horror video games, and a lot of moments that produce visceral reactions with me, I cannot talk about right now. I just know that if you know, you know, the end of Dead Space 2, there's a little surprise mini game that had me put down the controller, and for a second I'm like, you know what? I think I'm done playing. I think I've reached my end. I know the game has another ending, but I think I'm done.
Are you guys familiar with the game BioShock?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. One of my favorite games, it does have kind of that horror, creepy element to it with like jump scares and stuff. I played it first at a friend's recommendation, and we were at her house, and it was middle of the day, very bright, well-lit room, and we got to the scene where you have to go to like a creepy hospital. Yeah, you know the jump scare. You immediately know the jump scare I'm talking about if you have played this game. It happened, and I threw the controller across the room, and I screamed at the top of my lungs.
As much as I love horror movies and horror books, there is an anticipation and dread that comes from video games that can't be replicated in any other medium because you are an active participant instead of a passive one. No matter how scary it gets in a book or a movie, it is ultimately the characters making the choices, whereas in a video game, you are the one who has to go around that corner. You are the one who has to walk through that fog. You are the one who has to decide whether to open that door, not knowing what is on the other side. And so that element of interactivity just makes the fear and tension completely surpass what can be achieved in other mediums.
Oh yeah. It's also weird because I love playing horror video games. I hate horror movies. I cannot stand them. Yeah.
That was a really good point because I played Phasmophobia, which I don't know if you guys have. I think it's still in early access. It's changed a lot, but it's a multiplayer horror game essentially, and you play as like ghost investigators, and you go into a house that has some kind of entity in it, and you're supposed to find out what it is by talking to it or laying down stuff and like have it write in a book. But we were playing it, and I am not a huge horror fan, so I was definitely the guy that was just like, I'll go ahead and just stand by the door and make sure everything's fine on like behind you. You guys go down to the basement and all that. And in that game, the doors can lock. So the front door locked behind me, and my friends roll out of the basement, and down the hallway, I see this thing coming at me, and I literally just took my headset off and walked away. I was like, nope, not doing it.
The worst thing in a horror game is when there's an abundance of real estate. Like you see a long, narrow corridor, you're like, oh, come on. And then it's got windows right next to it, like, okay, yeah, I know what's coming, but you're still just kind of like, you tense up. And a lot of designers do anticipate that. So, like, half the time you walk by the window, nothing's going to happen. And then something bursts out of the wall right in front of you.
I knew it.
Yeah. There's a lot of really cool things going on the indie horror game development scene right now. There's this really strong focus on developing games that look like PS1 era games. And because there's something like off-putting about how the polygons were used. Because, back then it was because that was like the maximum availability of that technology. And now they're kind of pulling back and just being like, you know what? People look weird in PS1 games. When you try and make like a full human model, like they have like bumps and jagged edges that where we usually don't have bumps and jagged edges. And they've been using that to kind of create like very creepy vibes and like overall like underlying like horrific titles.
That reminds me of a game that I started playing recently. Have you heard of Return of the Obra Dinn?
Yes.
It's a great game. You can get it on different platforms, so there's probably something that you can play it on. And it's very easy to run because the graphics are all done in like retro style of like an old school Mac, or I think you can even make them Commodore 64. So you have various like two-tone displays. And it sounds so lame because you play as an insurance adjuster, but it's like kind of a magic insurance adjuster who this ship drifts into port after being lost at sea, and you have to go and figure out like what happened and how everyone on board died and all that stuff. And you have like a magic pocket watch that lets you see what happened, and you can figure out who's who from watching all the various scenes.
There's a developer I like on the indie scene called Puppet Combo, and he does like he plays with the visuals a lot. In fact, his games are aesthetically supposed to look like some discarded old 80s horror movie VHS you discovered in the back of like someone's back room. So you have like a VHS filter he applies. So they play like Silent Hill and like Resident Evil PS1 games with like a third person tank controls, but it's got like the scan lines and like some like static visuals to it. Oh, it's really cool.
Yeah, I've seen a few other games that use that. Oxenfree, which is another really good indie title, and it kind of skirts that line between like actual game and visual novel. But you do have like puzzles to solve, and it's very much exploring this island, and there's like a creepy surrealist aspect to it where time shifts, and whenever time shifts you get the cool fuzzy lines and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
Speaking of visual novels, it's a little bit of an older game at this point, 2017, but still probably in my top 3 video games is Doki Doki Literature Club.
I was about to bring that up.
Because I didn't know it was a horror title going in. It was just presented me as this visual novel. So I was like, it's a little quirky and...
Yeah, and it has that anime vibe of, like, the cutesy girls to kind of draw you in.
Yes, and then it gets to a certain point when you're like, okay, I'm on a completely different ride than I thought I was going to be. This experience is nothing like I thought it was.
I'm really glad the tag on Steam had the psychological horror on it, because I kind of knew something was up.
I'm sad that I know too much about that game now. Because God, that would have been such a great, like, just Tim Allen.
Yeah, there's another recent one similar called Inscription, which is a card game simulator, but that's only like a third of the game. There's a bunch of other stuff going on that I don't want to spoil, but it constantly has you keep going, oh, so that's the game I'm playing.
There's so many games like that too. There's Pony Island, where you are originally just playing like a 2D platformer called Pony Island, but you're actually playing the person who's playing Pony Island.
Okay, so very Inception-y.
Yeah. I should probably not talk about horror games now.
Yeah, I was gonna say we've covered horror pretty well.
Yeah, I think.
Personally, what I like about video games is, they're art. They really are, and they're interactive, and there's so much stuff going on, and it's just so much fun to appreciate. So, I guess we could talk about what games really blew your mind or changed your perspective on something.
For me, I just got my PC like a year before this came out, and this was my first. I kind of exploring some of the indie scene space, but the first game I really had like the strongest emotional reaction to was Gone Home.
Okay.
And Gone Home is a first-person exploration game that a lot of people lovingly call walking simulators, because all you really do is walk around, you click on things, play a girl who comes home for the first time in a year. None of your family members are home. It looks like everyone's just stashed out in the middle of the night. And the game is about exploring what your family has been up to in the last year through using environmental storytelling, like finding notes. And you do unlock certain voiceover narratives from the girl's younger sister. But mostly it's just like you're finding things like, certain dates circled on a calendar, certain foods that you find discarded in the fridge and trash can. It's just you're piecing it together yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had one that was kind of similar to that. It's called Braid, which was, I think, a 2012 puzzle game. And it's got a really dope soundtrack. I listen to it all the time. But it's also, the story is fascinating because you're not the best narrator. So as you're going through the story, you're kind of discovering that maybe you're chasing your princess essentially, and you're going through this game and you're solving puzzles to get to her and save her. But that's your imagination. And as you discover, you're like, okay, maybe I don't have a healthy relationship with this person. And then like the last level is this really interesting flip because it's split halfway in the screen. The top half is her running from a monster, and the bottom is you doing these puzzles to try and help her escape. But after a certain point, you realize that you're not helping her escape, you're trying to prevent her from escaping. So, like, whenever you push a button, it brings up a wall that she was supposed to climb, but it traps her in. Mm-hmm. And it changes your perspective on what your character actually, his motivations are. And it blew my mind.
And that's the thing I love about video games, because they take certain storytelling elements we're used to, like the unreliable narrator, and they find a new way to kind of spin it and deliver that to the audience.
You mentioned Metal Gear Solid earlier, and that's definitely a franchise that, on the surface, it is very much a stealth, action, suspense, thriller, but getting into the gameplay, so much of it is fourth wall breaking and meta, and actively makes the player question their participation in the story. In the first one, there's a very famous incident where you have to fight a telepath, and the only way to defeat the telepath is to take the controller out of controller 1 port and put it into controller 2 port. And at that point, he can no longer read your mind.
Oh, that's amazing.
In the third one, there's a section where you have to walk down a river of the damned. And depending on how you played the game, depends on how difficult it is. If you non-lethally took care of your enemies, then you don't have anybody on the river except the bosses. But if you went and indiscriminately slaughtered all the enemy soldiers that you saw, then you have ghosts there waiting to pull you down. So it's very much how you play the game determines what kind of game you're given and what the experience is like.
Oh man, the Metal Gear Solid series, you can just like have several podcasts just digging into like, all of those eccentric things. I love also with the boss battle with the sidekick, he reads your memory card.
Yep.
And he tells you like if you played any other games from that same developer, he'll make remarks on that and be like, "Oh, I see you're a fan of Castlevania, huh?"
There's also in Snake Eater, which is the third installment, the really old guy who's a sniper.
Yes.
If you just wait long enough, he ends up dying before you get to him because he's like literally on the edge of death. And if you take too long, it's just
like
the gravestone.
10 years old or something like that.
And I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing ever.
And like if you actually fight him, I've heard it's like a really intense sniper battle.
Yep.
Or you just wait it out. It's
Yep. Although your commanding officer does call you out for cowardice if you do that. So there is a little bit of finger wagging at the player.
Have you guys played Dishonored?
yes.
Okay. Dishonored, it's another good one that has the stealth elements, but also a lot of choice that changes how the gameplay goes. There's 2 games in the series, and you can get through both of them entirely non-lethally, which is really hard. The friend who told me about this game, I went back to him and I told him that I beat the first one with non-lethal achievement. And he got really upset because he had not done that yet. And then when the second one came out, he immediately came to me and was like, my first playthrough, I did it non-lethally just to beat you. But there's also like magic elements where there's this guy called the Outsider. And he'll, like, give you these magic powers that, like, some people think are evil, but some people worship and that kind of thing. And there are also options to, like, get through the entire game without using any of those powers and just relying on, like, the technology side of things.
And while we're on this topic, I have to mention Undertale.
Of course.
Of course. Which I missed the boat on.
I also missed the boat on Undertale. I just know a lot about it.
Tell us a little bit about Undertale.
It's a game that you play as a boy who fell down like a well, essentially. And you wake up in this underground that's inhabited by monsters. And you're kind of told one thing, I'm butchering the story, that the monsters want your soul and that they're evil, they're trying to get you. But as you roam through the world, you kind of find out that that's not really the case and that everyone's kind of got their own motives. And there's a little bit of propaganda going on, and you can play the game multiple ways, and there's a lot of twists and turns. And it seems on the surface to just be this fun, I'm going to say derpy, because of the art style and the naming and all of that stuff. But it's not just like a very shallow, it's not shallow, even though it looks like it. It's an extremely deep game that has a lot of commentary on expectations and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I've heard that a lot of people have described it as both a commentary and a love letter to like RPGs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Stardew Valley. Any Stardew Valley, farmers in here.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I actually just recently did a playthrough where I completed the community center for the first time. Because I've always been really bad at the fishing element in that game.
Oh, I love fishing. That's my jam.
Oh, for some reason that game is just super hard for me.
I stay away from Stardew Valley because of a really weird thing I do. So I love efficiency. And I'm like, so that game you have a certain amount of hours every day to do what you want to do, and you also earn money. And you can buy stuff and progress the game. So I'm like, I have to do everything as efficiently as possible, as quickly as possible to get everything done on time. And it's not imposed in the game at all. It's supposed to be relaxing, but I'm super stressed while I'm playing it.
I mean, I bet you would knock out the achievements that are like sell one of every item and like sell 500 of one item and all that kind of stuff, you would be great for that.
Oh yeah, I'm normally very chill, but whenever I'm playing that game, I'm horrible. But I did play a multiplayer playthrough with my friends, and we role played, and I was just a lumberjack, and that's when I had the most fun, because I'm like, you guys do whatever you want. I'm gonna go ahead and cut some trees for an entire day.
If you are interested in learning more about Stardew Valley, we do have a book here called Blood, Sweat, and Pixels by Jason Schroyer. I think I pronounced that correctly. It's a collection of behind-the-scenes stories about different video game developments, and that is one of the chapters. And one of the cool things about Stardew Valley is that it was all made by one human being. Mm-hmm. Spent like 4 years making that.
He goes by the name Concerned Ape.
Yeah, and it's a really fascinating chapter and a really fascinating book.
Yeah, that title was actually what convinced one of my friends to take the step into becoming a video game developer.
Oh, cool.
So he's doing the indie thing now, and he's having a lot of fun. But there should be a disclaimer that is not the typical experience you have where you work on a game for 4 years and you make tons of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got really lucky, and he put in a lot of hard work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the book kind of talks about how it was such a surreal thing, the massive success of this game, between it selling like large quantities and the fact like he made a deal with the distribution company where they only got a 20% cut of the actual sales.
Now that's truly insane.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Because, he made the deal when it was still in development, so they're like, oh, this is kind of a fun little game, like, this could make some profits, and then it made all the profits.
Yeah.
And this guy, within a week, he was a multimillionaire. And he didn't know what to do with the money for a year, and he still drove his, like, 95 Pinto that still had the broken door on it. Anyways, check it out. It's a fascinating story. What would you guys describe as... We don't have to, like, dwindle it down to one favorite video game, but, like, maybe handful of favorite games or favorite game series.
Or like a defining game.
Define it.
I have to bring it up because we cannot do a full episode about video games without mentioning Portal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that game, but man, it caused me a lot of headaches.
Oh, it's so good. So I played Portal at my brother's recommendation, and I played it entirely the first time on a laptop with a trackpad, and I beat the game.
Wow.
Which, Portal, if anyone doesn't know, is a very popular game about physics and puzzles, and you have a portal gun that can connect two separate places, and it requires a lot of fine motor control and, like, moving around and spinning while falling through space to, like, launch all these different portals to get puzzles to work. It's very good.
Yeah, I haven't said anything because my jaw hit the floor whenever you said that, because that's impressive.
But yeah, I still love Ratman and The Cake is a Lie and, like, all the little secret things that they kind of put in throughout. I think that's really good and really kickstarted a lot of innovation and storytelling for video games.
Gladys is one of the best written antagonists in video game history.
And then in Portal 2, you get Cave Johnson.
Well, we've already mentioned Metal Gear Solid and Silent Hill, both Konami franchises that I've grown up with and always really enjoyed. I'm not a huge RPG person, but I like space opera enough that I can get into Mass Effect just because it feels like I'm going into Babylon 5, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Battlestar Galactica. I like that kind of world. Usually with RPGs, I just feel like I get overwhelmed by choices and different things to do. Mass Effect, it's a little bit more action-based, so it's a little bit more palatable. And like I said, I really enjoy that world. That's one that, in addition to the other ones that I've mentioned, I really enjoy.
Yeah, and I mean, current generations probably look at it and like, oh, cool, action RPG and space, but they can't fathom just how revolutionary that game was when it came out. Like you said, it's like you're in one of those like space opera TV series, living that dream. And just the promise of, since they were developing a trilogy based on these games, your choices mattered. Knowing that what decision you made in this game could have an effect on what you did in game 2 or 3 of the series, it was mind-blowing.
Absolutely.
So I was a huge fan of the Final Fantasy series growing up, and I also was a huge fan of Disney growing up. So imagine
Everyone's light
sixth
bulbs
grade.
just went off.
Yeah.
Sixth grade. You hear of a collaboration between Square and Disney Studios. Kingdom Hearts was the one game I have literally checked like every single store within the area to try and find a copy like day one. It was crazy. And I mean, it was good. I enjoyed it. I think there's issues now that I'm adult that I look at it, but it hit everything that I wanted at the time.
Yeah, it's remarkable that that happened in the first place.
Yeah.
And the story of it, of coming together, is also compared to what the actual games were. It was very mundane in comparison. Like, literally, the Disney Japan office was right next to the Square Enix office. And people ran to each other in the elevator all the time. And they just kind of like, hey, let's make a game together like, while they're waiting to go down to lunch. It's just...
Yeah. All right, Aaron, we've given you time.
All right.
What do you got?
So, a couple ones, like single game. Not from the like, I enjoy the franchise itself, but the single game where I was just kind of like, video games are life, man. Fallout.
Yeah.
That was Bethesda's first foray into the Fallout universe. They were made by Interplay, PC only up to that point, but with Fallout 3, they became multi-console and switched from a isometric RPG to a first-person shooter, kind of similar to what they did with the Elder Scrolls series. And it was, for a game that's based in a post-apocalyptic wasteland that is full of really depressing stories, I just couldn't get enough. A game like that on paper, you shouldn't be able to find an emotional connection to. You shouldn't be driven to keep exploring and find even more terrible things in this game. But you are, because it's just like everything with the world building, the storytelling, the RPG mechanics, combat mechanics, it just all came together into just a nice, fluffy souffle of gameplay.
That's another one where it's far too open world for me to play personally. But my husband loves that series, and I especially like the newer ones that are all the 50s and 60s, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's when Fallout 4 is set. Mm-hmm. And the radio that you can change in the background, it has a lot of swing music that you can play. And so that is totally my jam.
Yeah, because those games, like, imagine, what if the world ended peak 50s America? And so that's, like, a lot of technology. But also, it's like an advanced 50s, too. It's fascinating. And I have to say, like, one of my favorite memories from that game is you come across, like, this one town, just has two families in it. They're all acting like the world didn't end. They're all dressed in normal clothes. And one of them just like, hey, sport, you want to come over for the barbecue today? We're gonna be smoking up a nice brisket while we wait for those Bears to beat the Packers. And you're like, football hasn't been a thing for 1,000 years. What are you talking about? And then, like, of course, there's a dark underlining story to it that just kind of really blew my mind. So, anyways, yeah, that's mine. And then, like, series-wise, one series I will just lap up like it's like the nectar of the gods is Resident Evil. I will play every single entry in that game and then have points in each game where I regret playing the game because it can be very terrifying.
You and I have very different Nectar of the Gods series because mine is definitely Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I think that's like the exact opposite of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Well, Resident Evil is about the horrors of science gone wrong, and Animal Crossing is about the horrors of capitalism. So they're close.
I know there are a lot of comparisons that have been made online, but I still find it so funny that right when lockdowns were happening in 2020, the two games that came out were Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing. And so you either survive the pandemic by playing Doom or cute little anthropomorphic animal village game. Did any of you guys get into, like, the childhood educational style games?
I had the Sesame Street counting game for the Nintendo. Mm. And they actually had a really scary digitized version of the Count's voice where, he's just like, one, but it was, like, strongly affected by the technology. So it was more like, it was just super scary for a 3-year-old Aaron.
I don't know if this exactly counts as that, but did any of you guys play there was one for Spider-Man and one for X-Men, the Animation Maker games? They were for the PC, and you would basically use all of these pre-existing assets that the game would make. So like a little GIF of one of the superheroes or villains doing, some kind of emotion like throwing a punch, along with archive music and notes, and you could put them on different backgrounds and basically create your own little animated short. It's funny because a lot of the archive sounds, like the police chatter that you hear in movies, I can recognize off the top of my head because of that video game as a kid. So all of the kind of like library tracks and things that just show up, the dog barking that shows up in every movie that needs to have a dog bark. I just recognize those sound effects so clearly from playing those games as a kid.
So I've not played that, but I see Aaron over here is jumping up and down in his seat.
I did a happy dance with only my hands. It was quite the sight. Yeah, I love playing with that on the PC. I think we only had like a trial version of it that came with the new Gateway PC we bought. And I got every single inch out of that game. Or I guess it was a game. It was more like a sandbox kind of thing.
I've actually got 2 educational games that I remember pretty vividly. One was in our computer lab at school. They had a game called 𝐑𝐞𝐬𝐶𝐬𝐿. I don't know if anyone else has actually played it besides the people that went to that school. But essentially it's a puzzle game where like you have these creatures. They look like 𝐑𝐞𝐬𝐿s essentially. And you're trying to get them across the world to a different location. And they have to like cross a bridge or climb a mountain and stuff like that. And it's horrific when I remember it because you lose a lot of people along the way. It's bad. You're expecting 10% casualties per location. And then at one point you have to go get another ship of people and bring them over. And they got to go through it too. Yeah, and then the other one I was going to mention was an old Mario game that it was all about creating music, I think. I don't even know the title of it at this point, but it had like a mouse pad that you played on.
Was it Mario Paint?
Yeah, that was part of Mario Paint.
It might have been, but I played it on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
Okay, so that did exist.
Yeah, I think it came with like a mouse and keyboard and accessories with it. But I've seen a lot of people in recent years, at this point, it could be, it could be recent years, could be within a decade, but creating both original and recreating existing songs using the Mario Paint systems and the different sound effects and putting them on the key. So people are still using it to this day to create different kind of music and stuff.
I was a big fan of Freddy Fish. You guys ever play that?
No.
I think I'm the youngest person here, so that makes sense. But Freddy Fish came out in '94. The one I played was the first game in the series called Freddy Fish and the Case of the Missing Kelp Seeds.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I know. Yeah.
Okay. And actually, this game has been re-released, so you can play it on, like, modern computers. And I did definitely spend $7 to play it when I was, like, 25. Great game. There are bits where you have to do math questions and remember patterns and solve puzzles. And in the end, you save the kelp seeds from whatever bad guy stole them. And then you can have lots of kelp sandwiches because that's what you want as a fish.
Did you guys play like any of the old school adventure games on the PC? Sierra, LucasArts?
Oh, like the King's Quest series
King's Quest,
and
Full Throttle.
all the
Myst.
I hear that the actual development of Myst was like crazy. It's just the technology didn't really exist, so they kind of faked it.
Yeah.
Similar to like the light guns for like Duck Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you guys know how the technology works?
It's
No, 'cause
bonkers.
It's magic. Really,
Yeah, because I mean, right now we have motion sensor and all that. They didn't have that back in Duck Hunt. So what it does is it's a light screen. So whenever you click the button on the gun for Duck Hunt, the ducks that are on the screen turn into white squares for one frame. And you have a very narrow light sensor on the gun. So it does a black screen. And then if the gun sees a black pixel and then a white pixel, you got a hit. But if it sees a black pixel and a black pixel, you didn't get a hit. Mm-hmm. So that's why it looks like there's a freeze frame whenever you pull the trigger. Yeah, they had that. That's how they fixed the motion sensor problem, which is just insane because like we're so spoiled nowadays with how much technology we have. And like we don't have to be innovative with that stuff.
This is back in 1985 where like the concept of the smartphone is barely in like futuristic sci-fi stories at this point. So, speaking of older games, is video game preservation. How much knowledge do you guys have on this?
I know that the Internet Archive has a lot of games saved there, and that's about the extent of my knowledge.
Yes, Internet Archive, which you go in there, there's a large collection of digitally stored books, articles, movies, clips, I think music too. But in recent years, they've been adding games. You can actually play a lot of these games from older consoles and PCs using like a built-in emulator, which you gotta be careful where you say the big E word. But I looked it up, and the Internet Archive kind of gets a pass on because they're more for like educational purposes, except for Nintendo. Nintendo doesn't like them.
Yeah, I mean, Nintendo doesn't like anyone, so.
But yeah, that's the one that is readily available to anyone with internet access can go check out. There's also the National Video Game Museum. Have you guys heard about this?
A very little bit.
So there are a lot of different retro collections and museums throughout the world. This is one of the most well-known ones in America. It's based in Frisco, Texas. It opened in 2016. And it is a really cool, curated exploration of the history of games with all the different consoles and ways to play a game. They feature like interactive rooms, each focused on like a different era of gaming or major video game companies. They're known for having like the largest like Pong machine. They have, which I thought was always fun, the 90s teen habitat, which is like a mock-up of a Texas teen's bedroom in the 90s. And they have a running version of the Sega channel, which you can not play on your own anymore. And then just one of the largest collection of working arcade game. Every step of video game development, they have a way for you to experience that.
Mm-hmm. Very cool.
And just to clarify, you mentioned the Sega channel briefly. If I'm correct, wasn't that one of the first, is it even considered online gaming? Or wasn't it more almost like the way that you would get a pay-per-view or through the phone signal or something? Or
no, I think you could download games. I think it was like one of the first services where you could download data and add it to your pre-existing games or like play entirely new games. And this was again early 90s when, you know, we were still experiencing the dreadful noise of the AOL dial-up.
Yep.
So you can imagine how efficient that was back then. The idea was not ready for that technology at that time.
Which I feel like Sega was really good at being a little bit ahead of its time.
So then the Library of Congress, which surprisingly I couldn't find too many details about this. The most recent interview with the curator, David Gibson, was from 2012. At that time, they had 3,000 games, still adding more, and then over 1,500 different strategy guides because they were trying to collect the literature associated with the games as well. But the weird thing is that they weren't collecting hardware. So no consoles, just the games themselves.
That's gonna pose some issues.
Yeah. Which is where the Video Game History Foundation comes in, which is a nonprofit that focuses on what they call the ephemera, which is basically the aesthetic with the promotions going on at that time and the marketing tools. Like they're all about collecting the magazines and the promotional art and then trying to find as much information as they can about like different contests that were being held for video games. Because like, you know, think about Street Fighter 2, they were big on holding different tournaments throughout the country to promote that game.
And I'm sorry, but what did you call all of this material?
Oh, well, they call it promotional ephemera.
Ephemera?
Yeah, sure. Ephemera, yeah. Ephemera. Which is basically just like stuff
Stuff that's connected to it.
Well, it's presentation that is normally lost in time. Mm-hmm. So they try to recreate that to the best of their knowledge.
Yeah, you just unlocked so many memories for me regarding like the old Nintendo powers and like the Sega magazines and all that.
The last thing I want to mention is the Video Game Foundation has launched a side project called the Video Game Source Project, which is not only about preserving the games, but preserving the original source codes of these games. Mm-hmm. And the first two games to be added to this collection was The Secret of Monkey Island and Monkey Island 2, LeChuck's Revenge.
Interesting.
Well, Aaron, we're talking about video games, and you and I both prepared in-person games to play.
I mean, I'm going to win. You're looking at me, Ellen. There's no doubt about that. I'm a little competitive when it comes to games. But let's do this.
What if we just all win?
No,
Yeah,
I'll win more.
everyone's a winner here.
I'll win the most.
Okay, so I'll go first. We'll see how this goes. I have here a list of the top 50 video games of all time, as defined by Wikipedia, so we'll see. Do you guys have any guesses?
Super Mario Brothers 3.
Are we talking sales? Are we talking
like
Yeah, this
critical?
This is based on sales.
Breath of the Wild. I'm pretty sure that was voted the number one game of all time critically.
Breath of the Wild is number 28.
Number 28. Okay.
28. Or Super Mario Brothers 3.
Super Mario Brothers 3. It's number 37.
Thank you. Okay.
What about the original Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, since they were included? You pack in items.
Yeah.
Are those included as part of the final sale figure?
Okay, Duck Hunt is on here at 25, so you're currently doing the best.
Oh.
Okay.
God of War. That was actually a PlayStation exclusive, so it probably didn't have great sales.
Oh, you might be surprised.
Not on
PlayStation.
here.
It was PlayStation 2, though, which was like the best.
Oh, I was going with a new one.
Oh, new one. Okay.
I'm going with like all newer games because that's everything that's breaking records.
Pokemon Blue and Red. Come on, crack the top 10. Let's go.
Not on the list.
You got to think about mass appeal.
So, where does
I don't know
this
any
come
of the
from?
Call of Duty.
This list comes from Wikipedia.
Oh yeah, we're thinking
Yeah,
first-person
do
shooters.
we have to name specific games, or can we go franchises?
Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
2.
No. One. First one.
I'm going with 2.
Number 2 is on the list. Number 1 is not.
Woo! What number is it, Ellen? Come on, higher than 25.
48.
Dang. All right, Erica.
Holy
You're
crap.
if I just make a ton of guesses, I'll have to get something right.
Yeah, this is like shaking me to my core right now. Like, I don't know anything.
It is individual games. So like if you say a franchise, like there's a lot of Pokemon games on this list. You just have not named any of them.
Pokemon
Okay.
Black and White.
Not on there.
Oh.
Pokemon Gold and Silver.
I'm gonna put you out of your misery. Gold and Silver is on there. It's 24. The other Pokemon on the list is Sword and Shield.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, the recent one.
But you still have not broken the top 10.
No. Games that everyone bought.
AAA title. I played the Insomniac Spider-Man.
A great game, not on the list. I think you're overthinking it a little.
Yeah.
I'll say this. The top one is one that we used to have a program for here at the library.
I'm going to go with Skyrim.
Nope.
That's surprising. Are we ready for a hint yet, fellas?
Yes, I want that lifeline.
Okay.
Okay.
What,
It is considered a survival game. Okay, I'll give you a little bit more. It's cross-platform, and it's open world.
Oh, Minecraft.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bojang.
Of course. Yeah.
So second on the list is Grand Theft Auto 5.
Oh, yeah.
of course. Yeah.
and third on the list is Tetris.
Okay.
Okay.
Alright.
Just that one iteration, not the
Just
series.
Tetris.
Okay,
Okay.
cool.
I guess it's super easy to get a hold of, and
Yeah.
it's been around forever.
And it was the Game Boy pack-in, the original Game Boy pack-in title, wasn't it?
Yes.
One, yeah.
The first Game Boy I got that came with Tetris. Yeah, I actually remember getting Minecraft back in like 2012 or 2010. Just a long time ago. And it's still out and still popular, which is super cool.
Yeah.
And it's still getting updated. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love games that the developer just stays with.
Yeah, and it's owned by Microsoft now too. So they're constantly like releasing new versions, and it's on
Yeah.
every platform right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus, there are a lot of fun mods that you can do, like new stuff with, and change up the look. So that kind of helps it stay relevant.
You guys want to go play some Minecraft?
So what's the rest of the top 10?
The rest of the top 10. So number 4, we have Wii Sports.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Number 5 is PUBG Battlegrounds,
Oh.
which that's surprising because that kind of like came and went very quickly. I
Yeah,
feel like.
Yeah, Fortnite it didn't bury it, but like Fortnite took most of that the
Yeah.
Battle Royale thunder. Yeah.
Number 6 is the original Super Mario Brothers.
Hey, I mentioned that right before Duck Hunt. So.
You're just killing it. We get it, Eric. You win. Here's your trophy.
7 is Mario Kart 8 / Deluxe, which I feel like that's kind of a cheat because they did just repackage it.
Yeah.
So that's more sales.
But when you look at the Wii U, like, I'm sure it's a mere fraction of the overall sales.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that definitely is outselling on Switch.
Yeah.
Pokemon Red, /green, /blue, /yellow. So those all count as one.
So you cheated me, is what you're saying.
I cheated you? Did you say Pokemon Red?
I said Pokemon Red and Blue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, blue's not on the list, so, you know.
Well, didn't she say 4?
No, okay, it did not.
No, green. There was a green, but it wasn't released stateside. It was Japan only.
Yeah. Well,
Let's
I'm
say
sorry. I'm
Aaron-
sorry
Aaron
about that.
did good. Just
Aaron did good. So if
Aaron wins! Eric wins!
you did, if you picked blue, which did not show up when I did a character search on the page.
Okay.
Number 9 is Wii Fit.
That's surprising.
And number 10 is a tie between Red Dead Redemption 2 and Tetris specifically for Nintendo.
Because those games were so alike. Awesome. All right. Well, I think Eric was officially the winner because you guessed Mario Brothers, and that was
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he got it.
Well, no, I guess Minecraft. That was number 1.
Okay, but after multiple hints.
Yeah.
It took a lot to
I
get you
mean-
there.
Number 1 is number 1. Man. Yeah, the math doesn't change.
All right.
I'll say you guessed Pokemon Blue, which is higher on the list than you said Super Mario Brothers 3.
No,
He said
I
1.
said 1. He said 3.
He said
Yeah.
3. Okay.
All right. So I do thank you for that, Alan. I do have quick game as well. You guys want to get into it real quickly, or?
Sure.
Let's go.
All right. This is whose video game line is it, anyways? Not affiliated with the classic 90s, mid 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s show. So I'm going to say a line from a video game. This could be something that is a quote or a set of instructions or just plain text for you to read. And you guys are going to guess and tell me which game specifically. So you can't just say like which game series. You have to tell me which game in the series. So first one is, hey, listen.
Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, one for Ryan. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this.
Zelda 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. The right man in the wrong place can make all the difference in the world. Yeah.
There we go. That's something
There.
more difficult. Oh.
I'll give you a hint. Think PC.
I got nothing. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Come on,
I have nothing as well.
give us some hints.
Half-Life 2.
Ah.
Oh, yeah.
Because the next
Mr.
part
Freeman.
is like the sentence after that. He says Gordon Freeman. I'm like, oh, that gives it away. So
Yeah.
Number 4. Would you kindly?
Bioshock.
Got it. 1 point for Alan. Should probably keep track of this.
Bioshock. I replayed that recently, and I forgot how graphic that game is.
It's intense.
I got the trilogy.
The whole twist is very good in the first game.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's just bonkers all the way through.
Yeah.
Okay. Next one. War. War never changes.
Metal Gear Solid, specifically. No, that's sorry. Fallout. Yeah, Fallout because Metal Gear is the other. War has changed because of the nanobot. So that is Fallout. I don't know which specific Fallout game though. I'm gonna guess Fallout 3.
It's like I'm not only going to answer it, I'm going to answer it with gusto.
I love it.
So yes, that's one for you. And it was in multiple Fallout. I think it was in every single Fallout game.
Gotcha. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not super huge, but one of my best friends is obsessed with Fallout, so I know everything from him. If not from
And you can't just have that line and not use it in every game.
Yeah. All right, so this is going to be very esoteric. So good luck, everyone. Thump.
What?
Thump.
Um,
All right, I'll give you a major hint. PC RPG.
But that's stuff I didn't play.
I don't remember a bunch of falling deaths.
I know there's a lot of those in a lot of video games, but this one is kind of semi-famous.
Not famous enough,
Not
apparently.
famous.
Yeah.
Well, I said semi. So
Not famous enough.
trying to help you guys out there. All right, give up.
Yeah.
Give up.
Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind.
Oh.
It's because you're just walking around and all of a sudden you hear someone screaming and then they just fall from the sky and land right in front of you. And it kicks off a quest about
Okay,
teleportation. Yeah. What is a man? A miserable little pile of secrets.
I feel like that's got to be from one of the Telltale games.
No.
Okay. Because that sounds very like Game of Thrones.
PS1 game.
Oh, jeez.
I'm going to guess a Metal Gear game.
No.
Okay.
The original Resident Evil?
No.
All right, what we got, Aaron?
It's Castlevania Symphony of the Night. It's the line Dracula says that everyone makes fun of. You have died of dysentery.
Oregon Trail.
Everyone gets it. You died.
Dark Souls. Yes. Because I've seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah. I'm pronouncing it how it's written. Congratulations. You have completed a great game and proved the justice of our culture. Now go and rest our heroes. It's a Nintendo game based off of a movie.
Power Rangers?
No.
Guys, I think we're kind of bad at this.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to blame it on Aaron personally.
Well, yeah, I tried to find some not so common ones. All right. Any guesses? Ghostbusters.
Okay.
That's the when you beat the game, that's what they tell you. You prove the justice of our culture. That famous line that Vickman says.
Ah, yes, beautiful.
Yeah.
I am error.
Portal?
No. It's not purposefully said.
What system?
Nintendo.
Nintendo's hitting with all the glitches.
Yeah, I know, right?
All the famous
And
ones.
I will say it's one of the main first party ones.
That doesn't.
Take a shot, guys.
I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't sound like a Mario thing.
Okay, it's not Mario.
Okay.
Yeah. What else does Nintendo even make?
All right. Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link. It's a townfolk you come across, and all he says is, I am error. The president has been kidnapped by ninjas. Are you a bad enough dude to rescue the president?
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
No.
These all seem familiar to me, but I don't remember.
Is that one Power Rangers?
No.
Ninja Gaiden?
No.
That was my guess. And I'm like, no, those games are too high quality.
Yeah. For Nintendo,
This sounds very knockoffy.
Nintendo, oh, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, it's Nintendo. Yeah,
Oh.
it's Nintendo, and I think it was a arcade game.
Oh, Double Dragon?
No,
Streets of
Fighter?
Rage.
no, it's definitely not one of the ones you think of. That's for sure.
All right, hit us.
All right, bad dudes. Are you bad enough, dude, to rescue the president?
The
Of
game
course you
is-
are, because you're bad. Dudes.
Okay.
Excuse you, I am a bad lady.
Yeah.
Oh yes, sorry. Do a barrel roll.
Star Fox.
Yeah.
Because
Click on the draw.
It was what the frog says 5,000 times.
Yeah, and Bunny too. Like,
Oh.
yeah. Everyone says it. Wizard needs food badly.
Gauntlet.
Yep. Okay. This comes up after an attack. It's not very effective.
Pokemon.
Pokemon.
Yeah. X-Men, Welcome to Die.
Well, the X-Men...
Well, but which X-Men game? Which X-Men
The 90s arcade game.
you got it.
Yeah, which also has I am Magneto, Master of Magnet.
Just the one magnet.
Just a single magnet.
It's really big. Okay.
Press F to pay respects.
Oh, jeez.
Is it like LA Noir?
No.
No.
It's a game that came out in the last 10 years. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan's like, that doesn't help.
I mean, that's just a meme now, so that's all I know about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The YouTube comment section.
Yeah. Trying to, like, school you guys and, looking up meme sources here. All right. Any guesses? It's from Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, where you are prompted to pay respect to your fallen comrade.
Yeah.
By pressing
I'm
F.
thinking X to Doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. That's from LA Noir. Ryan's going to be the one to beat, I'm sure, on this. Having his answer ready to go. I used to be an adventurer like you until I took an arrow to the knee.
Skyrim.
There you go.
I couldn't remember if it was Oblivion or Skyrim.
It's
so I panicked.
Skyrim.
Skyrim.
Do you know what that actually means?
Yeah.
Okay. Where, like, arrow to the knee, that means, like, you got down on one knee and proposed to someone.
Oh, I always took that literally.
Yeah, no, it's not literal.
There's
Like,
not someone
it's slang.
walking around shooting knees.
Yeah,
It's medieval like times. It just kind of fits.
yeah, it's slang to say like you got married
Oh, okay.
because you get down on one knee. So you got
So
shot
the-
in the knee,
so
you
the-
go down.
So the parallel of like proposing and getting
Yeah.
hitched is like I got my
You got
kneecap
mortally
taken out.
wounded.
Yeah. Okay, last one. I don't know if you guys are gonna get this. It's a me, Mario.
I mean, every Mario game.
Mario,
Super Mario 64.
No. Ha ha ha.
This
It's
is
Assassin's
only in
Creed
one
2.
of-
Super Mario Sunshine.
No, they actually said that in Assassin's Creed 2 as a joke. Like one of the characters was Mario because it takes place in Italy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he shows up and he's like, "It's a me, Mario." I know this joke even though it's like 1600s in Italy.
Yeah. He never actually says Mario, does he? He says it's a me.
Oh,
Or he says,
That's a
"Let's
good
go."
Yeah.
let's go.
Woohoo!
Yeah. I'm thinking Super Mario 64 where you can play with his face and everything.
Yeah.
He talks during that.
All right, that's the end.
Good
So,
work, everyone.
Yeah.
Ryan led the pack with 6, and then both Ellen and Eric had 3 each.
Good work.
Well done, people.
Well done. All right, fun times.
Arrogant 0 points.
Oh yes, that's
0.
right. Typically, the MC usually doesn't get any points, so let's
I mean,
just
you won the last
not
game.
forget that. I
Yeah,
did
but you
win.
lost this one. So.
So, yeah, I guess it's more about recent victories than overall victories now.
One last plug to give. You mentioned earlier the Street Fighter tournaments. We actually are going to be having a tournament for both Mario Kart and Super Smash Brothers later in May.
Nice.
So this is going to be for adults as well as teens. So if you're listening and are interested, this will be on Saturday, May the 21st from noon to 3. So it's going to be in about 2 months or so. And we're going to be having it in the cafe area of the Teen Zone. And if anybody wants to come, they're more than welcome to show up.
So we all have to start practicing Rainbow Road.
Yeah,
I was going to say, on behalf of this whole team here, are employees allowed to enter?
Depends on if you're on desk or if you're scheduled to work or not.
Yeah.
If you've got the day off, more than welcome. If you've got to work, speak to your supervisor.
Yeah.
And if you ever want to suggest any new things for the library to do, like video game related or otherwise, you can always make suggestions either at the branch or you can do it at evpl.org. So if you want to see any cool things, just let the library know.
And if you want to hear 4 nerds talk about video games some more, please email us at podcast@evpl.org.
Literally only need one email, and then we're like, oh, look, the audience demands it. So, real quickly, do you guys have any video game-based books or movies that the library has that you want to suggest?
I can't remember the author's name, but the book Console Wars about the Sega and Nintendo rivalry during the 90s. I believe Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg recently got the rights to that to turn it into either a movie or a TV show. So I think that's going to be adapted in like a nonfiction drama sometime in the near future, but I know we've got that in the collection. I've checked it out before.
And I do have it up here. It's Blake J. Harris is the author.
Thank you kindly.
No problem.
We've also got that nonfiction section of all the old players' guides and stuff if you want to either go down memory lane or see what it used to be like.
Oh, yeah. My suggestion is Farmville for Dummies.
We also have a good selection of the Halo novels. There's a lot of those out there if that's your jam.
And if you just want a nice, clean overview of just the major milestones of video games, we have The Ultimate History of Video Games, Volumes 1 and 2 by Steve Kent. That's it. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
We're glad to be here, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Have a great day.